It is 1:35 a.m. on April 25th, 2026, and I have been very displeased with the developments of the last 24 hours. In actuality, I'm very displeased with the developments of the last week as it pertains to this specific subject. So, first of all, I want to say that there is no neutrality in cases where we're talking about the protection of victims versus the platforming of predators. There is a difference between a story and a record. A story can be changed, edited, retracted, or even redacted. A record stands. Right now, we are here to discuss a line in the sand regarding a standing record about a certain individual. As you all know, I'm Cy Marie, and this is the Mind of Cy Marie. At this particular moment, this is a solo hosted show, and we are addressing why documentation is the only real leverage we have when the systems around us begin to shift. And we're here because the truth isn't just something you find, it's something that you protect. When we talk about independent media, investigative journalism, etc., in 2026, we are not just talking about a hobby or something we do for fun. We're talking about the mechanical necessity of being present where the official cameras aren't looking. Whether it's documenting the actions of land defenders or the specific struggles of Indigenous sovereignty, the work is about presence. I've stood on the ground during the moments that eventually get turned into a 3 sentence blurb on the evening news. I've seen the nuance that gets stripped away to make a narrative fit. And when you are an independent reporter, your job is to refuse that simplification. You are there to capture the grit, the tension, and the human cost the mainstream shuffle chooses to ignore. Why does it matter that we keep these records? It matters because without them, history is just a series of press releases issued by the people in charge. Think about the work being done by activists and community organizers right now. People like Simona Bearcub or the land defenders in the high desert. Their work is often treated as a temporary disruption, but when you document it professionally, when you file the reports and you keep the footage, you turn a disruption into a historical fact. You create a ledger of accountability that cannot be ignored. This is about ensuring that when complaints are made, that the voices are raised and that there is a paper trail that nobody can just lose. But this also pertains to the idea of internal and external sovereignty. As an author and a creative, I know that whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. If we allow outside forces to define what happened at a demonstration or what a specific movement stands for, then we've already lost. Let's be real with ourselves. We're living through an era where the unapologetic truth is considered a radical act. But for those of us who have spent years in investigative spaces, that's the baseline. We are bridging the gap between the grassroots reality and the professional standard of reporting that doesn't blink and doesn't back down. So, the goal of this episode and the platform is simple: to keep the record standing. We don't withdraw, we don't sanitize, we don't look away, we don't platform predators. And this isn't just about information, it's about the preservation of truth for those who come after us. Because otherwise, what's the point for supporting independent investigative work? There's lots of documentation, and there is a ton of evidence that is been made available to what I'm about to disclose, and that record is set. But I want you to stay focused and stay grounded and keep this hard line here, because Simona thought that she was being made to stand by herself as she was being raked over the coals for having the audacity to put the light on a known on paper sex offender who goes by the name of Dr. Christy Perez. And the documentation includes news media coverage, an indictment with multiple charges, including enticement of a minor, trafficking of a minor, molestation of a minor. I believe there were 6 different charges, including one that was a possession of drugs. This is a matter of standing record. This person got a plea deal that they pled down so that they could turn in their roommate, who was also involved in this sex trafficking operation. And the details are so heinous, I will not go on to them now. I'm not going to go there. But if you would like to, I will attach a link in the description to the show notes on this, where you can go look at Simona's Instagram, and you can also see where they compiled folder of evidences. And then I want to bring it back to the fact that there are literally people who went out there and said that there should be a deep dive done on Simona for having the audacity to shine the light on this when this person has gotten clout, has been on podcasts, and is supposed to be advocating for victims while they simultaneously have a record of having been one of the people to cause that harm. And when this was brought up, why is this person in activism and advocacy spaces and inquired upon because of the fact that Simona protects and has fought for human trafficking and against this kind of exploitation for most of her life, having been a victim of the same? So that when she comes and she brings this and she asks why there wasn't transparency, people say that there needs to be a deep dive on her character when we're looking at evidence that has already been proven about a standing record of a person that is on paper for being a sex offender, for the trafficking and exploitation of teenagers into prostitution, no less. No, that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable, and you do not get to call yourself an activist or a revolutionary. You're a performative activist. You're fake. If you are platforming and protecting a person that has victimized children, you're no different than the people that Pam Bondi and those who redacted files on the Epstein case. You're no different from the people that have protected and worked together to ensure that the victims of the Epstein files never see justice and that their perpetrators get to continue to be come and hold roles such as President of the United States. It is unacceptable for you to call yourself a true ally to this movement while you have narcissistic behaviors going around sending flying monkeys out, as another person who spoke up in Simona's behalf said. And I understand that the cognitive dissonance might be very difficult, but I don't give a shit either. The bottom line here is, if you know that someone is a sex offender and they are in an activist and advocacy space where you know there are victims who have been trafficked and exploited in that way, and you are not disclosing it and you are continuing to help that person grow their platform, and then someone comes and tells you about it and expresses that it is not safe and that it needs to be made aware to the greater activist network, your idea is to go and put that person under the scope instead of ousting the predator. There's something fucking wrong with you. And you are a danger to this movement, and you cannot be trusted. And you are another evidence of all men until it's none.